Hello, everybody. Let's get started. Welcome to the fifth annual Hamilton Musicians Entrepreneurship Conference. My name is Garrett Lajoie. I'm a musician, songwriter, producer, and a member of the Hamilton Music Advisory Team that organizes this event every year. I'll also be moderating today's discussion on collaborating and co-writing. This is our second virtual conference, so we're very grateful to have some local musicians joining us live on Zoom today and watching on Facebook. This is the second day of the conference. We're hosting 5 great talks this week. So if you missed yesterday's discussion on knowing your worth, it was a really, really great discussion. It is being recorded, and you'll find that on our Facebook page from yesterday. As we start today's discussion panel, we recognize that we are situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabeg to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. And we further acknowledge that this land is covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase 1792 between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Today, the city of Hamilton is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we recognize that we must do better and do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. So with these intentions in mind, we gather as members of Hamilton's music industry to share our knowledge and our experiences today. The focus of the Musicians Conference is to support the development and the retention of our local music scene in Hamilton and to strengthen our music industry. And we know through these difficult times that as individuals, as musicians, as entrepreneurs, as so many of you are working tirelessly to keep music alive, to keep your connections alive, and to stay connected with your audience and with each other. So one of the ways we can stay connected is through this conference, no matter what the format is. So if you're on Zoom, please introduce yourself in the chat. If you're on Facebook, please leave us some messages, link to your music. We'll be reading all that stuff throughout the conference. And also leave us your questions as we go, as we're going to have a Q&A towards the end of our session today. Today's conversation, I'm really excited. This is like the first topic that I suggested as one of the organizers, not even this year, but last year. I think it's so important. Co-writing and collaborating. So we're going to talk about how to do a session, a songwriting session. And I know we have producers, musicians, bandmates who all need to know about this really important topic. So let me introduce our panelists today. I'm thrilled to have Aaron, Chatterbaity, Stanley, and Lori Yates on the line today. All great songwriters, performers, with lots of experience in the industry. So yeah, put your questions in the chat if you have them. Let's hear a little bit about our speakers. Can we go to you, Aaron?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Garrett, and thank you guys for having me. It's really great to be here today. My name is Aaron Chatterbaity. I'm a music producer and a songwriter living in Toronto, and I write and produce music for bands and solo artists, as well as for film and television, shows like General Hospital and Kardashians and Hallmark movies and all sorts of kids shows. And I also write and pitch songs to be recorded by artists around the world in Canada and USA and internationally in Japan, Taiwan, and Germany. So that is my day job. I also own a record label with my business partner, Luke McMaster, called Deep Wave Records, which is distributed by Virgin. And lastly, but certainly not least, I am the president of the Songwriters Association of Canada, which is an advocacy group representing the business and creative interests of music creators in Canada and around the world. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Stanley, let's go to you.
Hey, I'm Stanley. I'm from Hamilton. I'm an artist and a musician. I'm also one half of Neutral, where we also teach young up and coming artists how to record on their own and to basically take your artistry serious.
Thank you, Stanley. And Lori Yates. Tell us about yourself, Lori.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lori Yates. I'm a singer-songwriter originally from Toronto. Been living in Hamilton for the last 20 years. I've been in industry for a long time. This, I think, is my 39th year as a professional. I've had 2 major record deals, been to Nashville, publishing deals, songwriter, bandmate. Most time I've ever taken off from the stage was this pandemic. Just did my first live gig last Saturday, which was fantastic. I'm also the owner operator of a songwriting workshop called Creative Genius Songwriting Workshops. And I'm currently returned to the studio, Blue Rodeo Studio, to record my 8th CD. So that's me.
Awesome. That's so cool, Lori. Okay, let's get to the questions, guys. I want to hit you with a stat to start with, okay? So you guys may be familiar with this. According to research from Music Business Worldwide, the average number of credited songwriters on the top 20 streaming hits in the US as of 2018 was 7.3 songwriters on the top 20 hits. If you narrow it on just the top 10, you have an average of 9 writers on all those hits. And this is thanks to songs like In My Feelings, which has 16 songwriters, Nice for What, which has 21 songwriters. So clearly collaborating and co-writing works, but there are still a lot of people when they first start out who are very afraid to get other people in on the process. So who wants to start? What do you love about collaborating? What is your favorite part, and why do you bring other people into your process?
I'll start. Basically for me, I don't like to box myself in, but I usually mostly hip hop, but I can do everything. The reason why I love collaborating is because you basically hop into someone else's world, so to say, and like you get to kind of feel them out, and like I don't know, it just creates really good friendship, and like I just really like to get into other people's world and see, what's different, what's kind of similar to mine, and like vice versa.
Totally.
I'll say something.
Go ahead, Lori.
To hear of like 9 writers on one song from the world I come from just blows my mind, actually. I'm sort of used to, one other person in the room, maybe 2, at the most 3, meaning a band. So it's a sort of a new concept for me to see that many writers, and then to hear of maybe Aaron, you can educate me on this one, and maybe Garrett, you can as well. Like the top line, somebody said, well, that's the melody. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I'm pretty old school, right?
Yeah.
And so where there's people that do a specific thing, I'm like, really? I suppose.
Yeah,
and then
I was talking to a song plugger about Top Line, and he said to me, that used to be called The Song. That was the song.
I'm like, isn't that the melody? Like, what? Oh, okay, you do like a specific thing. I'm like, okay. So to see that many people on a song, wow, when it comes down to splitting it, that must be an interesting conversation.
Well, they're lucky in those songs because there's so much money in those songs. A little bit of the pie still makes a difference. And I think you're totally right, Garrett. Like, every big song is co-written. That's just the way it is, and the work is better as a result. Those examples maybe are slightly different because I think they're using a lot of sampling, which then involves a lot of writers from the works that they've sampled. But still, I mean, sometimes too, an artist will take a writing cut when they didn't necessarily write on the tune. So there's a lot of business interests that try to get the credit. But 3, 4, that's normal. 5, 6.
Yeah, totally. With sampling and everyone wants a little piece of the pie, that list gets a little bigger than what it might have been organically. Yeah, so how do you guys find people to work with? I mean, obviously some people are available for hire. Do you guys wait for the calls to come in, or how do you find those people who are in your network?
Well, for me, it's more depending on like if somebody wants like a verse from me, they would reach out to me. Other than that, anyone that I personally like, I will work with. Like I'm usually like in tune with all like the Hamilton culture of hip hop and singers. Like I'm usually like I'm big on just city and music in general. So anyone that I like their music, I'm always open to collab.
Yeah, I've done the whole Nashville trip where I was set up with appointments. So writing appointments at 9 a.m. With 6 different writers during the day. So you'd walk in, you go, "Hi, nice to meet you." Shake hands, boom, open your notebook, and spill your guts on the table. Which, explaining that to some new writers, and I didn't come from that. I came from writing with people that I hung out with and were friends with. I think personally, that's where I've actually written my best songs, or on my own, but we're talking about collaborating here. But, so I found it really odd to do that, but it was very much a business. And at 10 o'clock, I had another appointment. And so you quickly had to know how to bang. You had to have your list of ideas, and you had to be able to open up and get vulnerable really fast with somebody. I don't know. I produced, the first song that I wrote down there, it got covered. I made a little bit of money on it. Is it the best song I ever wrote? No, it's not. It's one way to do it. But I think if there's people that I admire their writing. I don't have the chutzpah to ever call them up and go, "Hey, you want to write with me?" I just don't. I just I might send one email, and if I don't hear anything back, then I'm like, no. I would need an introduction. I would need someone to go, "Hey, you need to write with this person," right? Yeah, I'm way too shy for that stuff.
Yeah, I think you're totally right on, Lori. Like I've done both ways where it's kind of, coming up in bands and you're writing music that way versus the more 9 to 5 Nashville style of a couple writes a day. Your publisher's sort of setting up the appointments. You're walking into a room where you haven't met the people before. And another sort of scenario, I suppose, for me as a producer is I often will be doing some writing as I'm producing the record. So if I'm brought in to produce something, it's often to do writing on it as well. So I meet people that way. But at this point in my career, like I have trusted collaborators who I really gravitate towards repeat sessions with it. And that's where I put a lot of my energy. And then sometimes if it's a new artist or something who's looking for songs, maybe they'll be in the room too. But yeah.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to do it. I mean, sometimes an idea just comes to you, and maybe you get on the phone with your friend who you've written 100 songs with and say, "I need you on this." And like you said, maybe you're in there at 10 a.m. and you just gotta go for it. So, how do you prepare for those sessions? What do you bring with you? Lori, obviously, you bring some ideas.
Well, you know what? I try to, if I'm going with, I was sort of taught to do that, to not go in empty-handed, just sort of out of respect, right? For another writer, that if I'm going to go in, especially if I didn't know them that well, I would at least have some ideas that weren't total crap that I could show them, and they would show me theirs. And then sometimes an idea would drop out of the sky between the two of us. If it was more on a friendship basis that I knew them, then I could be a bit lazier about it. I could just sort of be myself and be like, I don't know, I don't really have anything, or be a bit looser about it. But if it was someone I didn't know as well, I definitely would have a solid idea to present. And if we clicked on it, great. If we didn't and we came up with something, well, great. But if we didn't, at least I had something to present. I hated going to meeting somebody and I didn't have something. If they didn't like it, that's okay. But at least I had to have something, an idea to bring with me.
Me too. I think I do it a lot for my own sort of psyche. I just feel better going in with like a really great beat or maybe a premise or, a musical or melodic idea. And then, sometimes that just goes out the window, like you said, Lori, and you do something totally from scratch. But it's just nice sort of peace of mind to have, some beats in your back pocket or something just to kind of to kickstart it if needed. But then, sometimes you just do stuff from scratch anyway.
Yeah, usually I just bring, like Aaron said, try to have a good selection of good beats that we can just go over. Maybe a couple reference records that I've already previously done, just to kind of get like a feel or like an idea of like our direction, at least on what we're trying to do. And if not, I usually just leave it up to them, and wherever they're comfortable with, I'm comfortable with, and then we just.
I think titles and premises are a really great place to start personally always too, because I feel like that's a really important, if you have just a solid concept or idea, and then build from that, as opposed to building around something that might not be, the foundation maybe isn't totally secure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys suggest to people who find it really difficult to open up? You know, you can write a song about anything. You can write about your aunt who just died, or you can write about the red umbrella you saw on the sidewalk. Like there's such a range. What do you suggest to people who have trouble opening up about those stories?
Well, I mean, I give, with the workshop that I host, I give people song prompts to like an idea to work from, right? So it's not like a blank page that people are looking at, right? That helps.
Well,
And,
for me, sorry, Lord.
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, for me personally, I just kind of like for some of the younger youths that I had some writing sessions with, I just kind of tell them like keep your emotions in mind. Like even if it's happy, you could be happy. Just keep whatever makes you feel happy. Write about it. Whatever makes you feel sad. Sorry, write about it. Anything that you feel, because music's just about feeling, right? So
Yeah, so that's especially hard, like especially when writing virtually or with new people, to have that level of intimacy where, like, because I've certainly had writing sessions at pop camps and stuff where you're really churning out many songs a day, and it's like you're still putting your all into it. But there's those types of songs, and then there's songs where everyone in the room is like crying, and it's like really real, and maybe you started the session by chatting for 2 hours about like you said, Gary, your aunt died or whatever it is, and so that's a challenge I find in the Zoom world, is to get that sort of intimacy with people over the internet. Let alone strangers, but I think you just learn to do it. And artists tend to be very, I think, sort of like empaths, and so certain artists like to share, and that's sort of part of the writing process. Because if these songs can be built on reality, I think they tend to connect a little more. So even if there's some nugget of truth in it, it doesn't have to be totally biographical. But if it's based on real emotion, kind of like you said, Stanley, like I think that's a good place to start always.
I'm always trying to aim for and tell people to aim for, to try and find your authentic voice, like what you really want to say, right? Because a lot of new songwriters will say like, well, that topic, it's already been said. And yeah, it has, whatever, say the broad topic of love. Well, yeah, sure it has, but it's not been said by you, and it's not going to be said the way you're going to say it. So I'm always, and for myself, it's always about stripping away the kind of bullshit, so to speak, to find authentically what you want to say and say it. It's like writing a short story is easier than writing songs, right? Because you have more words to do it in. And we're kind of trying to compact it in this little thing, right? And so always it's way easier for me to look at somebody else's writing and go, oh, okay, this is what it's easier for them my own, but it's just to find what their authentic voice is. And then, because we hear it all the time. We just keep hearing people's authentic voice, what they're saying, even though the topics are the same. There's about 5 of them.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the songs that I feel the best about are the ones that were real stories, true stories.
Yeah.
My old music teacher told me one time, the best songs are the things that you can't say out loud. Like, I'm in love with your wife. You can't say that to someone, but maybe you can hide it in a song, right?
Yeah.
Great plug for our authentic branding talk also, which is happening this week. So check out the rest of the schedule this week. So with the online world, how often do you guys have collaborations that fizzle out, maybe in a more casual sense when you're writing with friends? Do you get ghosted? Do songs ever just not get finished?
Yeah, in my world, yes, that happened mostly when like someone's hitting me up to like inquire for a verse, and like I don't know, I have a little integrity with my music. If it's not if I don't like it personally, it doesn't have to be very good or spectacular. If I don't like it, I'm probably gonna charge you a fee, right? But like, that's mostly where it comes down to. People feel like I don't have a lot of followers, or, you know, you're not famous yet, so you shouldn't be charging. But I feel like if you are writing and it coming from your mouth and your heart, and this is your work, and you're spending time and love and putting all this stuff into it, you should be getting paid for your music or your art or whatever you do. Beats, producers, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Aaron, do you want to jump in on that? Do collaborations ever not work out?
Yeah, I think there's certain relationships that work out better than others. Like there's just certain people you'll write with that you click with. Maybe you have a good chemistry, maybe your skill sets complement each other, and those are probably going to be the relationships you pursue. And then the ones where, it didn't work out for whatever reason. I mean, sometimes you just have a bad day with someone, but sometimes, it just doesn't feel as right, and you're probably not going to call them up as much anymore. Finishing stuff, like, I like to finish stuff that I start, but at the same time, you got to choose where you're putting your time. So if you have a track or a song that, sure, finish it, but it's like, maybe don't spend 100 hours on it if you really don't believe in it, because I think time you can move on. You're going to write lots of songs, and I think you need to write lots of songs. So if you don't finish a song, it's not the end of the world. I mean, I would go into a writing session with the expectation of you're not going to finish the song, because then it just relieves you of any sort of pressure, and you'll probably write a better song. Whereas if you're kind of concerned about, having to come up with something amazing in 3 hours, like, why put that pressure on yourself? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm a great starter. I usually can come on with a pretty good idea. Famous last words here. A pretty good idea and a really great melody. Here we go. I go really heavy duty dry spell now, and I won't be able to write anything. I've never said that. But I feel like that's my strength. Anyways, I'm a terrible finisher. So I say that to people if they want to write with me. I'm like, I will be really interested for a little while, and then you've got to finish it, because I won't be. I just won't be. And they'll be like, oh, okay, you want to finish it? That's fine. That being said, I recently have had a couple of tunes where I'm hoarding my tunes, right? Like, I'm like, I have this great idea, which I think is great. Maybe no one else does, because they haven't heard it, and they maybe probably isn't anyways. I'm very humble about my writing, right? But I think I'm stuck. I can't, I don't know where else to go with this, and it needs to go somewhere else. So, there's a couple of people I'm kind of watching, and I reached out to them. I don't know them. And I just said, hey, I have this idea, and I we sort of have an experience in common. And would you be interested in hearing this idea? And they're like, sure. 2 years later, I sent them the idea. Now they accepted it. They said, oh, that's great. No,
Well,
then go ahead.
I was just gonna say that puts into focus, like, one of the benefits of collaborating too, right? If you have something you're not quite sure how you want to go about finishing it, or you have a great collaborator, and that can really elevate and push it over the goal line.
Yeah. So I finally sent it to her, and now I haven't heard back from her, and I can't be on her case. It's only been 2 months.
You have to wait 2
more years.
You gotta wait 2 years now. And then
but I'm a little bit like, because she's not a similar style to me at all. Which like, at one point in my career, I put out a trip hop record, like in '96, right, on Virgin, and a completely different style. So I always encourage people to do that too. Like, don't write within your genre. Go completely out of your genre. It's so refreshing, right? Challenge yourself.
And I think a lot of music today too is quite sort of cross-pollinated, and genre lines, I think, are constantly blurred, and so
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So do you guys seek out other people who have different strengths to yourself? Do you know, like, I'm a lyrics kind of guy and I need someone to help me with the rest?
Yeah. So I'm more of like a storyteller. I can tell really good stories. Basically all lyrics, like melodies and melodic side. I usually reach out to like other singers. Paulo, amazing. Yeah, people like that are always just down to create. Like, we don't really have to put it out all the time. Just to create in one space will always help you.
Yeah, I think it's good to kind of collaborate with people who have sort of equal and opposite skill sets. So if you're a really great lyricist, maybe you want to collaborate with a track person or someone who's really great with melody, or vice versa. If you're making great tracks and melodies, but you know, the lyrics are, you're falling a bit short, you just link up with a really incredible lyricist, and I think that helps.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Yeah. Stanley, so you work with neutral development with youth. Do you want to tell us about what it's like working with the youth of Hamilton, and what kind of challenges are youth facing when it comes to collaborating?
Well, first I want to say it's amazing, and there's just this city just a gold mine with young talent that it's unbelievable. But I think like some of the stuff that some of the challenges that the youth are facing is like really getting out of their box and like actually talking to people. Like, COVID has a really good part in it. That's just keeping them totally isolated, but networking, talking to other people, talking to grown folks, because some kids are just really talented, but the shyness in them will, you know, kind of just put them in a corner and box them in, really, when they should be out here talking to everybody that does music, right? They kind of more focus on like staying in their shell and staying to like their age group, when it should be everywhere.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's great work.
That's great. Yeah. So Lori, Creative Genius
Mhm.
Songwriting Workshop. Do you want to tell us how that has gone? How many sessions have you gone, and do you like writing over Zoom?
I'm up to about 27 of them, and not mostly they were in person. I have to say I haven't done that many on Zoom, because a big component of the workshop was write the songs, record the songs, and perform the songs all in 6 weeks. It was like Success Without College. So a big part of it was the gig at the end of it, because when I put the workshop together, I kind of put myself in people's place when I was like 16 years old and just trying to figure out, you know, I remember walking into Lana McQuaid and saying to the guy, I want to be a singer and I need to rent a PA. And he said, well, what do you want a PA for? I said, well, I don't know, but I need one. Right. I didn't know where to start. So I wanted to take that guesswork out of. So that's why I set up a studio and set up a gig. So when the pandemic hit, I, went into shock and a depression, had some personal losses in my family, and really did a couple of them, but it didn't translate well for me. And I kind of lost my desire to do them. So I did a couple. I did a bunch of coaching stuff, individual stuff, and I just let it go. I would put feelers out. I wasn't getting the mojo back, and I was like, okay, I can't hustle this. This just isn't there right now. My friend who also does a lot of online stuff, she said, people are sick of being in front of a screen. So you just have to. So that being said, I'm selling it great. I believe things have a natural order, and that, so I was kind of like, thinking, oh my God, it's all over. I'll never be able to do the workshop. Not true. When and if we're able to meet again, that's a part of the workshop. There was a whole community that formed from it. So we would do gigs. I would do, I had a gig with 35 of the songwriters, and that was a huge part of it. So I'm hoping to have one soon. I'm now working out of the Cotton Factory. That's a big enough space to host some people. And yeah, but I have done stuff on Zoom, and it's different. It's weird. It's okay. You know, people can be playing with their cats while they're pretending to write songs. You know what we do, right? It's okay. It works. It works well enough.
Yeah.
You know, for me, the whole lifesaver, I went on live and started to perform on Facebook, which that saved my life. But
Yeah, which has been super great. I've
you
seen
know,
some of those,
have
and
you? Oh, I
you
mean,
bring such good energy.
oh, well, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, it's totally selfish, but you know, I wish I could say, I wish I was one of those super ambitious people. I was watching them, they're like, and I'm doing this and that, and you know, they've got everything, but my emotions got the best of me during the pandemic. I was just really bogged down. I mean, I guess maybe it's still happening, but it seems like we're coming out of it, right? So at least
Yeah.
hopefully we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted when a new workshop, hopefully November, obviously October's too late. I'll let everybody know. Yeah.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
And Aaron, how do you like the digital collaborations? I personally like a Zoom collaboration. Maybe you can tell me about your experience with it.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. It's efficient, and I have a trusted group of collaborators who we send files back and forth. So, you know, it's fine. It works, and it's eliminated a tremendous amount of travel, that's for sure, which is good and bad. But yeah, it's fine. I think with Zoom, you can make stuff work. I mean, audio movers, you can record a singer in Nashville and track it in Toronto, and you know, you can do incredible things. But you know, the connection of being in a room with someone is sort of undeniable as well. And you know, sitting around the piano and playing together in real time, which it's trickier to do online. That's lacking, but make it work. You're not caught in traffic. Do more sessions in a day. You know, I think the problem is it's like everyone's overworking. Everyone's booking themselves from like, you know, meeting to meeting to session, and there's no breaks because you can just flip to the next Zoom call, and then all of a sudden it's just everyone's getting burned out. So I just feel like the computers, you got to put the computer away sometimes. I like just writing at the piano sometimes. Just nothing. That's nice.
Yeah, totally. And I'm a notebook guy. I'm not. I don't do this. I don't write my lyrics on my phone. I like the pen and paper, and you guys agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like all this stuff, technology, you know, it's like some of it good, some of it bad. Having the phone, putting down voice notes or melody ideas, putting down titles and notes, that's invaluable. But I like the pen and paper too.
Totally. Let's dive into the weeds a little bit. So for people who are new to collaborating and co-writing, it's important to have an agreement with your collaborators as to how you're going to split up royalties and writing credits. Aaron, do you want to fill us in on a little bit about Socan and why it's so important to register your music on Socan and when we should? Yeah,
absolutely. So Socan, I don't know who's in the crowd, but it's Canada's PRO, Performing Rights Organization, and for any performance of music, that could be live at a concert, it could be in a grocery store, it could be at a film or television, it could be on the radio. Socan tracks that, collects money, and pays it out to the songwriters and their publishers. So, you know, if you're at a point where your music is getting some play anywhere, it makes sense to register those works with Socan to collect your performance rights and pay out to. So that's sort of reliant on the split sheet that you were talking about, Garrett, and just coming to a determination with your collaborators what the splits are going to be on that song. So back to the Drake example, if there's 10 writers, it doesn't necessarily need to be even splits. Certain parties might have greater splits than others. So does that kind of answer?
Yeah, so when you're in, let's say you're early to the game and writing mostly with your friends, and maybe you're releasing music on Spotify, you know, it's so accessible to put your music online nowadays. At what point should you be bringing up your agreements with your co-writers? Do you do it from the beginning of the session?
I think long before you're putting your music on Spotify, that should be really ironed out quite clearly. So that's the main thing. And yeah, you should probably at every co-writing session have a split sheet. That's just the reality of it. I mean, does that always happen? Probably not. But you should definitely have just a simple piece of paper that says, what are the splits? You know, it's kind of as simple as that.
I mean, I would say like maybe depending on whose record it is, but maybe on just before you're ready to release it to any platforms, you kind of just have a kind of a sit down and discuss, maybe have another session with the producer and the artist and whoever gave their input. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, like, sorry, go ahead, Claire.
I was just gonna say, it's important to have that stuff ironed out beforehand. I mean, again, I kind of come from a different old school place, I guess. I was taught whoever's in the room when you're writing the song, that's the split. So I have a song where me and the bass player wrote the song because the drummer and guitar player were sleeping, but it's a four-way split. Now, we had a little bit of resentment towards these guys. We're like, look at these, they're snoring over there. But, and we were like, what are we going to do? Are we going to split hairs? I mean, that's what we did. We cut them in on it. But it's because it was a band and a friendship thing. Right now, if it was a little more formal, two people wouldn't have been sleeping.
See, Lori, I've heard a word for a third, but I've never heard like snore for a
Snore for a fourth.
Snore for a fourth. Yeah,
there's their names. But I think if you did it and did it quickly and out of the way, it's going to save you a lot of heartache down the road.
Before there's money, because as soon as there's money involved, as soon as someone thinks that somebody's doing something with the song, people get squirrely, and it can be your best friend, and people get squirrely when there's, this sort of notion that, I don't know, just do it early, like before the session. If, like, let's say Stanley and Lori and I got together for a session, maybe say, hey guys, are we just splitting this 3 ways? Everyone's like, yep, great, done. Then you write your song.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Just get it out of the way.
And sometimes someone won't contribute as much. Sometimes you won't contribute as much. You'll be more quiet that day. And there's also, like, you got to think of a co-write session as almost like a boat, and someone's going to be sort of the lookout, someone's going to be the navigator, someone's going to be rowing like crazy, and they're all important functions, and it's just collaborating to make something greater, right? So you don't necessarily need to be precious and, well, I wrote this many lyrics and this person didn't. That's in my experience, that's not the way to do things.
Yeah, you're right, because a song, a credit or a point really can come from just a word or a title or, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Do you guys have an ideal number of people that you like to write or co-produce with? What's your group look like ideally?
I have a good go-to 5 people. Yeah, a go-to, like, where no matter what, we will get something done, and no matter what, there will be a great idea for sure.
Yeah, like I have a collaborator, my buddy Luke. I know I'll be able to sit down with him and write a song, finish it, and just the two of us. Sometimes we'll bring in another artist, as a vehicle for the song. At the Songwriters Association of Canada, we have a program called Pro Songworks. It's a song camp. And we found a formula there that seems to work well. And it's each room has a track person or a producer who's sort of in charge of making the beat or the music or the recording the demo. There's an artist who would typically sing and potentially provide a vehicle for the song if they wanted to release it themselves after the fact. And the third writer would be a top liner who would maybe be focusing on lyrics and melody in collaboration with the others. And so those three sort of functions in a room seems to work really well for me personally. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me right now, I've been specifically writing on my own for, here I am on a co-writing, collaborating platform today. But I have a couple of people that I go to when I do co-write. But I co-wrote for a ton of years, and it took me a long time to find my own voice. So once I did, I was holding on to it preciously. And and then I'm one of these stubborn artists that I sit down and go, okay, I want to write a song for, I don't know, so-and-so. And I somehow can't get my own artistry out of the darn way. And so, yeah, I have a couple of people that I go to, but I'm mostly writing on my own these days. Sorry, Sarah, you booked me on the wrong one. Sorry, Garrett.
Let's I have an audience question. If you're releasing with a service like CD Baby, who collects payments from streams on your behalf, do you still need to register your song with Socan?
Yes, you do. Absolutely.
Yeah, because
Uh,
there's kind of a couple, well, there's a couple fundamental rights. One's the master right and one's the copyright. So the copyright is the song. You know, if you were going to write it down or just play it, sing it in the air, that's the song, the lyric, the melody, maybe the chords. And then there's the recording of that song, which, as you can imagine, one song could have many different recordings. And so each of those are two separate royalty streams. So yes, you do need to register it with Socan, because Socan will collect the performance portion of the stream,
yeah.
and for the publisher and the writers, and CD Baby will collect the master portion and pay it to the master owner, so the record label or the artist. I don't know if
And
that makes
also
sense.
those like DistroKid and CD Baby and stuff like that, they also they just basically grabbed your money from their platforms that they're uploading to. Socan kind of like goes out and say if you got a placement on the radio, they go out and they'll bring your money to you. They'll find your money wherever your song's being played or wherever, and they'll bring it back to you. As if you're with like DistroKid and you get a radio placement, nobody really knows, and you're not gonna get your streams or funds or money or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Or any film and TV usage, if you performed your song live at a concert or someone else did, I mean, all those types of public performance is why you need to register with Socan. There's another stream called the mechanical right, which is on the publisher side. So you'd want to register with CMRRA or Socan reproduction rights as well. So that's a third one, not to confuse the issue, but every stream has several rights bundled into it, and you collect them slightly differently depending on what the right is.
Yeah, and I believe we're going to leave a blog post in the chat here somewhere or on Facebook so people can read more about how to claim all their royalties, because it's very, very important. Aaron, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Songwriters Association of Canada and what they can provide for musicians?
Yeah, absolutely. So SAC has been around for over 35 years, and it's like I said before, we're an advocacy group looking out for the business and creative interests of songwriters. So, I mean, we make sure that things like Broadcast Act and copyright review are being looked at the federal level, and then we also have a lot of programming that we offer for members, things like a song pitch service, Pro Songworks, Song Vault, and these are all sort of just member benefits that if you join, you can access. And it's basically a community of like-minded creators. So there's a community aspect as well, and would definitely recommend everyone join. Does that kind of give an overview there?
So if some of the kids sign up, what kind of placements do you guys really focus on? Like, is it for producers placements or artists with?
We're not going to be placing music, although the song pitch service is an opportunity to, for example, we just had a specific song pitch opportunity where members could upload their song to be pitched for a specific Nelvana cartoon. So it's a very specific type of usage. And that's one of the services we offer. We're really not marketing music. We're not linking up songs with big artists. That's not what we do. It's more providing community, providing opportunities, providing a lot of webinars on things like rights and royalties, how to collect from Socan, how to collect from CMRRA, sound exchange. And so the education component is really big in terms of what the SAC does. And then where I come in as president is really more advocacy. So it's just, making sure that songwriters' rights are being well represented, because they're currently not in a lot of the digital sort of ecosystem that we're in right now.
Yeah. So we'll take some audience questions. Leave them in the chat on Facebook or on Zoom if you're with us. I'll keep my eye out for those. In the meantime, I want to work with a professional. How can I find writers who are available for hire? What should I expect to pay? What will that be like? Big question.
I think that's maybe a genre specific thing because it's sort of a rare. Laura, you might agree with me that it's less of like a day rate for a writer is less. I've seen it a few times, and I'm certainly for it. If any way a writer can get paid is great, but typically songwriters come together to create something that they all share ownership, and that's the nugget of it. But that I know that's not always the case. So, and Stanley, you can probably speak to this a bit too.
Yeah, it's not anything that I can say that I've seen in Canada, a songwriter being paid like that in Canada. Not in the roots genre anyways. No, not in the genre that I'm in. It's not.
For hip hop,
No.
and R&B kind of, it all depends really. Like, there's great writers that would honestly work with you just to sharpen their sword, really. Like, just to get their craft really going, they'll work with you for free. It's just about networking, actually just talking with people that just write music and just going into sessions and just vibing, really. Some people do charge, but there's not really
Like for a feature or
yeah,
something, someone might be charging, right?
yeah, sure. But like some people just want to just work on their craft, so they'll write with you and or help you write. But I'm not too sure about the specific rate on how to or what really. Yeah.
I will tell. So there was a writer. She's in LA now, and she's from Toronto, and very successful now. A lot of big cuts. And I remember back a long time, maybe 10 years ago, she's grinding out, also getting very successful then. And songwriting's tricky because when you write a song, you really, by the time you monetize that song, you're not going to see any money for at least a year, like best case scenario. And so I think what she started doing is offering up her service as a co-writer to aspiring artists. And if they wanted her to take time out of her day to write with them, they would pay her a day rate. And she would also retain some ownership in the song. And so I know I've seen that done. I don't think it's super common, but I mean, it made sense to her at the time. And I think it was probably a win-win for the artists who got the opportunity to write with her.
Sure. What would her day rate be? Or any idea?
I don't know. I think that's again too would just be up to the individual to kind of negotiate and but again, like I said, like I don't see that very often. Like I said, it's mostly like I think you guys would agree, you come together for the greater good. You decide you're going to create something equal ownership, and when it's monetized, everybody wins.
Yeah.
Totally. Yep. And there's so many great writers and so many great artists in Hamilton that you can reach out to. Yeah, so tag us on @HammontMusic on Instagram, and I believe we repost everyone who tags us if you want to get more involved with your local scene, because boy, there's a lot of good talent in Hamilton. On that note, question: do you only write for or collaborate with musicians in your genre? I know we kind of touched on this earlier.
Me personally, no. I love just going into different worlds, seeing what they're really. That's what I personally love. Like I'll work with a complete R&B songwriter or a singer, or even country I've worked with, just writing songs, going back and forth, listening to different types of beats or instruments, samples to even put into a beat. Like I personally like just bouncing around everywhere. Really, I don't like to be really in a box.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I tend to, these days sort of it's acoustic music, but no, I'm kind of open. I think a good song's a good song. It doesn't matter genre wise, and it's a challenge as a writer. I think it keeps you on your toes and interesting, right? If you can, yeah, the better, more genre challenging, the better. Different genres, definitely.
Yeah, you nailed it, Lori. I think great song is a great song. Doesn't matter the genre. I mean, certainly certain genres have certain kind of norms and I don't want to say rules, but a country song has things about it that make it a country song, and but a great song can kind of cross genres. And
Yeah.
me personally, as a producer, I'm all over the place, which I like. Like I like doing
Yeah.
rock
For,
or pop or country or whatever it is.
I just personally think repetition is everything. So just sharpen your sword. It doesn't matter who you're writing with or anything. Just write anything, even if you don't come up with the whole song or just a portion, half a hook, just a chorus, a bridge, anything. Just write it down and store it in your backpack. Like anything can be used at any time.
For sure. I had, I'll just give you guys a funny example that I had the very first tune I ever fiddled around with that came to me, right? Literally, I don't know how long ago, when I first started, I finally finished the song. I mean, I recorded it this week when I very first started. I had a verse for 30 some odd years. And I always loved this verse, and I never put chords to it. I always just had this verse, and that popped out. It fell from the sky. I always remembered it. And then it was an unruly child, right? Unruly child. That's what I call them. Like they don't want to be finished. I would pick it out every once in a while. Go, oh, okay, bring it out in a writing session. Okay, maybe with this one. It was a very personal kind of, actually, and everybody would look at it and go, oh, it's too weird. It's too personal. But finally, it fit in a song. So when you say keep in your back pocket, right? That you never know.
Oh yeah. Yeah, don't throw out anything. You have one little hook, one little line, keep it forever. You never know where it can be used, right?
Yeah, weirdly. And with every writing session, I'd have like my host of unrulies, and I'd heap them on the new unsuspecting person. I'd go, so what do you think about this one? And they'd be like, because they would always have.
Did they ever call you like, you already pitched that to me? I already said no.
No, but you know what? I went to record, and I kind of went, they were like my BC songs, and it was with a friend of mine I often record with. And I was like, so what do you think of these ones? He's like, I heard these ones before. And I'm like, that's not the response you want when you're going to go and record. Like, you really don't. You kind of want somebody to be a little excited, right? And I was like, oh, because that's how I felt about the songs too. I was a bit like, oh, they're not great, but they're okay, and I could record them. I'm like, oh, so we're both feeling that way. Okay, maybe these songs ought not be recorded. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Two people are feeling like this. Chances are 200 and more are going to feel like this. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a story from Andy Grammer about how they were in a session and they were writing a song, and they got about halfway through the song and they went, is this song any good? And they all went around the room and they went, yeah, it's fine. And they all went, yeah, I think it's fine. Okay, scrap it, start a new one. And then they just go on to number 2. They get halfway through that one. They're like 3 hours into their session and they go, okay, how's this song? Do we like this one better? And they all went, it's okay. I don't love it. Like, it's not our favorite. And then they said, okay, let's start a new one. And at this point, Andy Grammer is like, guys, I've been here all day. I can't. And they said, well, let's write a song about how frustrated we are and how hard it is to write a good song. And that song was a hit. And I forget the name of it, but if you go to Andy Grammer's Spotify, it's one of his hits. It's the 3rd song they started in one day.
Wow.
So yeah, bring all your junky ideas.
Yeah. It'd be like,
my band has a saying, and they're that they call it polishing turds. As a songwriter, you really don't ever want to hear that. Like, yeah, we were polishing turds, and I'm like, so the song's not that good, but they're making it sound better. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, that's like in the old days, you couldn't record just every single song. So you're probably a little more selective as to which songs you actually record. Whereas now it's like you can't not record a song. So it's, but you got to be able to strip it down to the campfire and have it hold up. And if it's not,
right,
all the polishing in the world is not going to help that turd, I'm afraid.
That turd's gotta flush that baby away. Well, and that's like one of the, that campfire test, right? Can you is there something memorable about the words, the melody, something that you can sing it, or I don't know, perform it or something? Is there something memorable that you would remember it around a campfire?
So it's like the other, like you don't have to finish every idea. That's kind of what we
No,
were talking about before. It's
right.
like, know when to move on. But at the same time, sometimes you got to see something through 100% to make sure that it's not good or that it is good or not good. Like you don't know sometimes. So I don't know.
Nowadays,
No
there's
rules.
writing on the fly. So it's this new like generation thing where people will kind of punch in every word or every two phrases, and then they'll stop and they'll just go based off of what the last thing that they said. It's really weird, but I find it's a real creative and different type of writing style. Like a lot of kids nowadays are doing that rather than getting a pen.
Yeah.
Just whatever they're feeling at the moment, whatever they felt all through this week, they'll say whatever they have to say. They'll think about it. If they like it, they'll cut it, and then they'll just go from the last word that they said and keep on going until it's a full song. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's just like, the recording process is nowadays often just really linked in with the writing process, which is fine, but that's just how a lot of people work, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we just about have to wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a lot of fun. When I sat down today, I said, oh boy, I'd really rather not be inside on this gorgeous Hamilton day, but totally worth it. And I think tomorrow's going to be just as nice. So are there any projects you guys want to promote while I have you here? Anyone got releases coming out? Now's your chance.
If everyone wants to go on Spotify, any platform that you listen to your music on, I have 2 projects. My last one is Free Trauma. It's basically just explaining, just basically giving my trauma out to the world, just expressing myself. And then we also have For the Love of Y'all. So it's just my love to all my supporters. And yeah, new music video dropping any day now. So
awesome.
Yeah. Nice. I have a Facebook Live performance every Tuesday at 8:00, and I will be hosting a Creative Genius Songwriting Workshop sometime in November, and I'll let you all know when that's going to happen too. And thanks for
awesome.
having me. Yeah.
Check out songwriters.ca, and it would encourage all the songwriters out there to check us out, join the association, and reach out, say hi. Thank you guys so much for having me today.
Thank you, everybody. This annual conference is only possible through the work of volunteers on the Hamilton Music Advisory Team. So big thank you to them and the Musicians Conference Working Group who put this all together, as well as City of Hamilton staff. So thank you so much to them. Remember, this is only day 2 out of 5 for the conference. You can watch yesterday's discussion on Know Your Worth up on our Facebook page now. And tomorrow we'll be discussing authentic branding. So check that out. Remember, you can watch all the conversations live on our Facebook page, or you can sign up on Eventbrite to join us here on Zoom. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's all write a song sometime.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys.